Well, latest webinar from the Open Group. I do apologise. We've got a little bit of a late start. We've had a little technical difficulties, but I think we've found a way around it. This event is being brought to us from an Open Group of BOC. I think it's a case study from the Austrian government. Today's speaker is Johannes Lischka. Before I hand over to today's speaker, I'd just like to go over a few housekeeping issues to keep things moving forward smoothly. First of all, I would encourage you to ask questions. This is obviously one of the reasons we bring these webinars to you. There's two ways that we can communicate on WebEx, the chat facility and the text QA facility. If you'd like to ask a speaker a question, probably the best thing to do is write your question directly into the chat or the QA facility. If you have a question in there, can I ask you to address it to all or all participants? That one gets to see the questions that are being submitted. If you share a comment or an observation or have a discussion with a fellow attendee, then probably the best thing to use is the chat facility. We will answer as many questions as we can at the end of today's presentation. Now, we often get regular requests for the copies of the slides used in these webinars, and I understand that the copy of these slides will be sent out to all attendees 2 or 3 days after today's event. This event is being recorded, so if for any reason you have to leave early or experience any local technical difficulties, such as audio outage, then a full recording of this event will be available tomorrow, and everyone registered for this event will get an email that will contain the appropriate URL where they can access that recording. Now, if you do experience any local audio problems, you also join the teleconference simply by clicking on Communicate and then choosing the appropriate number to call in by. So Johannes and Arash, if you're ready, can I ask you to start your presentation?
Fine.
You are.
Thank you much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry also for the delay. We're facing some technical problems concerning our own architecture here. We are so secure that we are not able to use WebEx. And so, together with my co-speaker, Arash Mostashari, I'm going to present the slides the distributed way, so I'm talking and he's clicking. Let me just first start with some introduction. My name is Hannes Lischka. I work with the Federal Ministry of Finance. And I also would like to introduce Mr. Mostashari from the BOC group. I'm going to tell you about the contents I've prepared, and Arash will be happy to answer some questions concerning the tool that I'm also going to talk about. So please go to slide 2. This is an agenda. First I'm going to introduce to you the Federal Ministry of Finance. The Federal Ministry of Finance will be abbreviated as BMF, so that's the Austrian or the German term, German abbreviation. So don't worry, this means Federal Ministry of Finance in German. So I'm going to start with an introduction. I'm going to tell you about some general challenges and benefits. Then I would like to tell you something about how we are managing our own architecture. I think the agenda number 4 will interest you probably the most, how we actually implemented a tool to support our architecture management. And I'm going to make a round of a summary. Please, slide 3. Just very short, the Federal Ministry of Finance is structured into so-called sections. It's like big departments, and there are business sections, and there's the section I'm working at. There's the so-called IT section, and the business section is specifying the business requirements. And within the IT section, so in my department, we are the sponsors for implementing the business requirements as the given solution. We are the monetary sponsors, and we have got several areas to cover. The traditional finance areas like taxes and customs. Also cover federal theme like the human resources management for the federal government and federal accounting and budgeting. And we'll cover some requirements for the Justice Department and the Social Affairs Department. You can see just some numbers. I won't read them out now, just to see how big we are, and we are indeed the largest IT department within federal government in Austria, and probably Austria as a whole. Could you continue to slide 4? Respect to slide 5. I just start out with some challenges to motivate why we had to go on the road to architecture management. The challenges will be known quite well to all of you probably. Maybe we have some distinct features within the public administration. Generally, all of us are facing a kind of as-is architecture that was implemented historically, maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So it's very heterogeneous. Further, we have to with boundaries and influences, like laws we have to abide, like other governance processes within the public administration. We face the fact that requirements are rising, especially in complexity and in amount. But on the other hand, we are facing decreasing budgets, so we have to do more for less. And also, market demands come to us. Are evolving rapidly, so in all we are in a situation, if we don't do anything, we will probably not be knowing how many applications we're providing for our customers, and we won't probably be able to give them new requirements in a reasonable set of time. Please, slide 6. So, like a kind of a summary of the last slide. So the gist is, or to put it in a nutshell, we have to reduce costs, and there are all two ways we see, and one is standardizing the technology, and the other one is reusing existing code or existing functionality. At the moment, we've got an ongoing consolidation effort, efficiency. It's got like the consolidation law. It was passed in 2012. So the federal government already addresses these problems. As I was saying, the obstacle at the moment is to implement more than we are able to probably do, or than we are able to pay for. So we have to switch that around in some way, that the environment we are living in is more flexible and more standardized and more able to reuse its given code, so that we can still deliver more, probably. As solutions and other solutions in the future won't make it easier for us, because, for example, the amount of interfaces is just rising, because with some SOA web services, it's so easy to interface to some other application, and this has to be addressed as well. Please, slide 7. These challenges lead to certain facts. So we are addressed with a very large number of applications, and a large number is still increasing. On the other hand, I'd say we can save costs, and we have costs in two different ways at least. The first one is just a singular effect, so you can negotiations with your vendors. You can maybe cut some licenses you don't need, and Gartner says this could come up to savings up to 10%. But still, these are just singular savings, and there's no sustainable effect. The single effect only arises, in our opinion, when managing the IT architecture properly. So all these things I addressed, reuse, standardized components, standardization leads to a better function, able to create agile and more flexible ways to implement more code in maybe less time and maybe for less money. So the problem is, if we don't do anything with unstructured development, and as you can read, this will lead to greater complexity, and of course, greater complexity and more implemented requirements also lead to higher and rising operational costs. And as I already mentioned a few times, the federal budget is decreasing. So, as a possible nemesis, there could be a situation if operational costs rise and the budget is still sinking and decreasing. Maybe there will be some applications we shut off because money is running out. Please, slide 8. So what we did is we established IT architecture management. Establishing IT architecture management is an iterative process, as I pointed out here. And normally, in the whole world, people are talking about 5 to 10 years of establishing, and depending on the maturity you're having in your own organization. So we started in 2007, so we're like 5-6 years doing these things. We did first, and this will also probably interest you. Of course, we looked for given standards, we looked for given best practices to learn from. One of these was TOGAF, the Open Group Architecture Framework. I would say we are not conforming to that framework, but we took the best ideas out of it, I think. The ADM methodology that is built with TOGAF, I think should be very well followed when having an architecture project in place. So really the first things you have to do is define principles, define models, glossary, roles, responsibilities, and so on. Still, we adapted TOGAF to our own needs. TOGAF is a very holistic approach. I'm sure all of you are aware that TOGAF, I think, in the current version has got 800 or 900 pages. So we had to adapt that, and we had to fit these ideas into our own company. And for example, our meta model description fits on 30 pages. After that, we put our first version of the IT architecture deliverable into effect, and then we had to ask ourselves how to really implement the process, and of course we quickly came upon the idea to choose a tool. We spent much time on requirement specification for about a year, and then we chose a tool out of 3. And since 2010, we are implementing this tool. I'm going to talk about that later in a later chapter. talk about effort. How much effort do we have to spend in our own organization for successful architecture management? Again, to analysts, effort should be around 3 to 17% of the overall IT effort. Good and really successful companies, banks, financial institutions, etc., probably are on the top end at the moment, but facing these budget problems or budget restrictions at the moment, we are on the more lower end of this figure. So we are having about 2 to 3% effort going to IT architecture management. Slide 9. You can see our main goals we want to reach with IT architecture management. Some of them I already mentioned, and the really overall and probably most exciting one sounds quite easy, but is quite the different, is establishing the common understanding. So I'm going to show you our meta model, and the terms we use there. It took some years to really establish this glossary of terms, but without that, I wouldn't really start an architecture management effort, because you're not knowing what you were talking about. You can't govern anything. All the other things are quite obvious, probably, especially the goal on the bottom, the better allocation of the IT budget. And this is quite interesting. I'm going to focus on this one. On this slide, you can see a graph for Ratner again. And the problem, and why am I showing you this? Because the problem is architecture management, like other management disciplines, is driven by qualitative effects. So we can't really give you quantitative numbers. So at least we can, or Gartner shows in this study, that the red line you see, this RTB, run the business, so the operational costs, go lower if you are establishing IT architecture management. So our goal to better allocate the IT budget can be reached with IT architecture management, probably. So we could reach decreasing operational costs and should have more for innovation and IT projects. Ara, please, slide 10. So all the key challenges and with the goals, we still have to make some effort to reach these goals. What we have to do with architecture management, we have to treat assets like assets in bookkeeping or budgeting. Information systems have a life cycle. They live. Many of us only know about the initial costs. They don't know about the life cycle costs, and they are quite huge regarding to the initial costs. You see here approximately an application lives for about 12 years, and the annual ramp-up costs only amount up to 8% of the total cost of ownership. So you've got 9% of costs to look at. So what would we like to reach with doing enterprise architecture management is on the bottom. We want to reach the goals I presented you on slide 9, and this leads to that we enable the sponsors or ourselves take IT architecture decisions more deliberately, especially towards the contractor. we will probably reduce time to implement new applications because we reuse code and have greater predictability of the architectures in the future. So if you we will standardize product or tools within three years with a given standard set of understood architecture elements, and make that plan. We can make application lifecycle management for real. On slide 11, you can see the whole thing I told you just in the picture. So we would transform the as-is situation, this heterogeneous IT architecture, by the means of architecture management in an architecture, that is streamlined and standardized. Could you please directly to slide 13? 13, you can see how our architecture management deliverable is set up. This is a picture that shows our table of contents of our architecture deliverable and what is written within this deliverable. So from on the left-hand side, you can see the strategy and goals coming from outside our architecture management as the main boundaries and driver. And on top of the box, you can see our meta model, so our definition of terms. And this presides over everything else within this architecture deliverable. So everything is we think has to be referenced to the common understanding and the glossary of terms within this meta model. On the next slide, I will show you how this meta model looks like. In order to come from the as-is architecture to the target architecture, we have to define it's called reference architecture. So the ideal architecture, so to say, and we've got three processes in order to reach that, and they are called guidelines establishment, the yearly architecture planning, the innovation management process. Where the guidelines establishment process and the yearly architecture planning process are the most mature ones. But I'm also going to tell you about them a few slides ahead. On slide 14, you can see how we are structuring our architecture elements. This is our meta model, and you can see that it is influenced by TOGAF, of course, and structured exactly this way because our own organization is exactly structured also like this. Because we have different departments, they are led, and the business architecture, for example, is headed by the business, and the systems architecture on the bottom is headed by our provider, Federal Computing Agency, who is hosting most of our applications. In the middle, the big yellow part is headed by the IT section, so by guys like me. It is really out like that because we are responsible for the yellow part, and other people in other departments are responsible for the green and the blue parts. So we can't tell the green part how it looks like. We just are able to address our own needs. So the TOGAF of a virtual company is quite difficult to implement within our organization. So there is no overall enterprise architect would have the opportunity to govern the information systems architecture. And to the business architecture and the systems architecture. To tell you about the yellow part in between, we are separating our architecture in several areas. There is a functional area which we call architecture domain, a more technical area which we call components architecture. In the architecture domain are the information systems. Within the information systems have applications, and interfaces are located between such applications. On the other hand, we have the components architecture. Within the components architecture, there are so-called reference models. They can be compared to I think they're called technical reference models within TOGAF. So the stack of products an application consists of. And the picture is painted like that deliberately. So the object containing the components architecture is like a box containing the architecture domains. So in terms of governance, this means the architecture domain 1 and the architecture domain N have to use the components lined out in the components architecture. So this is not just a picture, it has a meaning where the boxes stand also. That's in brief our model. Arash, could you please go on to slide 15? I'm just going to outline this in short because I'm going to show you how we implemented these three processes within our tool. So we have got a guidelines establishment process. Guidelines meaning laws information systems have to abide. We have got a standard workflow, how we establish such a guideline, and in the end it is put into place. The yearly architecture planning is an architecture planning process where each year we are making an inventory or as-is architecture, so that we know what changed within the last year. So it's a snapshot the architecture of the last year, and the beginning of defining the target architecture for the following year. So after building up the inventory, we are evaluating our as-is architecture, and we find the target architecture and the architecture targets defined within a document for the next year. I will skip the innovation management process because we didn't establish that at this point of time. Arash, please go on to slide 17. Coming from theory, I would like to show you some practical analysis we made. I'm going to tell you short about the history, how we implemented the tool. We have prerequisites that we have to rely on. We have certain deliverables, roles and responsibilities we can't change. That will be the same in your own organization probably, and especially within our federal ministry. Sometimes depending even on laws, we have to use certain terms within our meta model. So we need to have an adjustable meta model within our tool. We also wanted to give the user the experience to show him a dashboard at first sight where only the architecture elements that interest the user are shown, so that he doesn't see the things he's not interested in, so he should come to the dashboard. So I think I already mentioned that we had a requirements specification phase for about a year. We also had a tool already in place, which we tried to pilot. And after that, after these experiences, we invited 3 vendors to participate in a competition. And in the end, POC came out as a winner. At this point, maybe, or in the end, Arash Mostashari can gladly be answering some questions for you about the product itself, I can answer the questions, the contents of our implementation in the Federal Ministry. So after choosing the tool 2010, we implemented tool 2011, and from that time on we had a release each year, and currently implementing release 3. We've got a second tool besides the POC implementation. Namely, we've got a Cognos system for systematic evaluation based on measures. So we have an interface between the POC tool and our Cognos system, telling us, for example, how many applications we have, if this is good compared to another department, which we base upon a systematic measurement tree. I'll go on to slide 18. On slide 18, you can see how we implemented the guidelines establishment process. The big screenshot guidelines we enlisted within our tool. These guidelines are grouped into groups of depending on the status. So we have a workflow engine running within the POC tool, leading the people and the users through this workflow from the beginning until the end. The guide is put into action. In the front you can see also really like to address in the beginning, we can assign these guidelines to specific architecture elements, of course based upon our meta model. So we are putting the user into the drive seat, and like the idea for the dashboard, because he's only seeing these guidelines he has to cope with. So at the moment, I think we have a bit more than 10 to 15 guidelines, and depending on which information system you are governing, you only have to face a subset of these guidelines. So you only see the things you're really interested in. On the next slide, you can see some screenshots of how we are managing the yearly architecture planning process. So the inventory process, it looks like a wiki. So we've got some forms lying beneath our architecture elements, where certain attributes can be put into place, and we have also implemented a rights management. So only the people who are owning an architecture element can change these architecture elements. I sketched what coming out of Cognos. I just sketched it at the moment because we have only implemented it this year, so it's really a sketch. But to show how we are trying to think about this, so after our architecture elements, our as-is architecture, we will produce a report in form of a quadrant, where we can see the top right-hand information systems should be addressed more with more. We should go on with these architecture elements instead of declare them. And on the left bottom hand are the architecture elements where we should think about really going on with them, or maybe we should stop investing in them. And after we evaluate these measures, showing how good our architecture, how good our IT architecture is, we produce a target document where we document the architecture targets for the departments for the next year. So these are our two architecture management processes, and I just want to show you two other benefits which we encountered or which we wanted to address when we implemented our tool. On slide 20, we are addressing the requirement specification phase in a requirements lifecycle management. So at the beginning of an IT project, people are able to reuse models from the architecture management tool to put in their requirement specification. And the good thing about that is that the people really now see the benefits of the tool, so then they no more need to sketch their own models. They can do that tool driven. And on the other hand, we on the central IT section department, we can look at these requirement specifications and then evaluate whether it is conformant to the architecture guidelines or not. And if it is not, they have to go along with the conforming guidelines. Otherwise, the contract is not going to be granted or satisfied. On slide 21, you can see how our reports, especially for the master data of our architecture elements, can be reused in operations, or better to say, in the documentation of our operations. So we have got documents describing our operation systems, our applications and interfaces in a document style kind of way and in a graphical kind of way. And this can be used on the pressing of a button within the operations documentation. So we are able to address with the tool our own management processes, which is quite important that they are aligned to them. On the other hand, we are addressing also other management processes or other IT processes within our organization that come off as a fringe benefit for the users. Coming to the summary already and the roundup, I want to again tell you why we do architecture management and what the benefits are. So on the one hand, establishing architecture management really takes time. So we, as I told you, started in 2007, and we are now 6 to 7 years ahead. And still we need to move on quite rapidly to get a better situation. It takes and especially resilience, especially within a public administration organization, and it takes effort. As I told you, like 3 to 7% of the IT effort has to be spent on architecture management. And quite importantly, addressed on the last 2 or 3 slides, architecture management needs to be integrated in other IT management processes. For architecture management planning process is linked with the budgeting process. So if we're addressing or finding out that the architecture is not good or can be bettered in some way, it is done in parallel with the budgeting process. So we're in the problem of having qualitative assertions that cannot go along with a solution because there is no money. So this is also a kind of success factor to align the architecture management process and the budgeting process. Last but not least, we need a tool that is aligned to these processes, and we, especially in our department, we needed to address the exact alignment to our meta model and our glossary of terms. But all these efforts we are taking we enable the sponsor to really make the deliberate architecture decisions, especially towards a contractor. This is especially also interesting in public tendership. The more detailed you get, the more efficient your public tendering process will probably go into place. Probably the interesting thing, we facilitate cost savings. As I already told you, I can't give you numbers, but analysts say possible to reach more than up to 10% of costings doing architecture management. Of course, 10% of savings often do not occur on an account, or you don't get money out of it, but 10% instantly go into implementing new requirements. So just to give you a hint on what we would like to do with standardization, we would like to address the following things. We would like to decrease our products and components, and up to 2016, we would like to have only 10 reference models, so to speak 10 technical reference models or 10 product stacks our applications are implemented with. Currently, we have about 40 or 50, so there's a big chance to consolidate. And how do we want to do that is to lose 4 of these reference models each year. I could convince you that speaking of challenges, architecture management is one of the most important issues in the present time, and I hope I could just some practical examples we are dealing with at the moment within our federal ministry. I show you how we implemented the tool to address these problems, and I just want to close with some information on slide 24. For German-speaking people, we are holding a conference where you can learn more about the things we're doing and other organizations are doing in Germany and Austria concerning architecture management, which is going to take place on the 4th of December. So let me apologize again for the inconveniences in the start. I hope the method we were choosing, Arash and I, was straightforward enough to make the contents clear to you. Now I want to thank you for your attention and close with slide 25 with my contact details, and would be glad to answer some questions.
Yeah, many thanks for that, and Arash, thank you for managing these slides today. We do have a few questions here, but just before we move on to those questions, let me just repeat that Arash will be sending out copies of the slides used today in a couple of days. If for any reason you don't get to see a copy, then please feel free to send me an email. My name is Simon Lofthouse, and you'll have my email address on WebEx. Send me an email, and happily pass those through to Arash and make sure that you get a few of those slides. Now we can work our way through some of the questions we already have on QA. So we're just going to... okay. So the first question, so this is for Johannes or Arash, from Michael. What is the percentage of your information systems that are self-coded versus purchased off the shelf?
We have 6 architecture domains, and 2 of them are individually coded, and 3 of them rely greatly on standard implementations like SAP, whereas still in SAP there are many parts we programmed individually themselves. So I can't really give you a measure in terms of lines of code or something like that, but I would say it rounds up to 50-50. So we've got 50% of our spending going into individually programmed software, and probably 50% into standardized software. But that's just a number coming across my mind just at the moment.
Okay. Next question from Stanislav. He's saying, according to slide 14, you or your other departments define detailed meta models in business domain green and technical domain blue you define for ISA domains.
Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, the green domain is resided within another organizational section, as well as the systems architecture in blue. So the systems architecture domain even goes across organizational borders. So for the blue icon, the Federal Computing Agency is responsible, and for the green, the business sections. So the sections dealing with tax laws and tax organizations and how administratively to handle tax agencies and customs agencies. So we are not able to define the details of the business architecture and the systems architecture because of these organizational borderlines. We're just able to link our own information systems architecture onto the business architecture and systems architecture respectively. So going to in the direction of the blue area, you can imagine that within a reference model we specify products. These products reside on special platforms, and these platforms are organized within the systems architecture. And we know the relationship between these two elements. On the other hand, on the top, we know that information systems reside within special business processes, business areas, but we don't really have a business process that we can address upon. So as I also mentioned, we have not got a virtual enterprise. One enterprise architect is the boss of all of these three colored elements. So we are only focusing on the yellow element within our IT section. I hope this answers the question.
Thanks, Hannes. A question from Roberto asking, does BMF use a different tool for IT architecture management?
Maybe Arash then can comment on that, but at the moment within the IT section, the BOC solution is the only solution we are dealing with enterprise architecture management. Within our borders, that's true and correct. But as I told you already, the blue area organized by the other company, the Federal Computing Agency, they have their own tool, also based upon the BOC solution, though. But concerning enterprise architecture, the BOC tool is the only one within our government. We have interfaces to our budgeting tool, our project tool. That's what we have at the moment.
Thank you. Question here from Rajesh asking about cost savings. Cost saving is 10%. He's asking, is this including the project till 2016?
The numbers I gave to you, this 10% more or less, from studies conducted by Gartner. We don't have an actual number. I also try to outline because I think every one of us knows that we can earn or gain more doing enterprise architecture management, but the qualitative, the increased quality we are producing goes to implementing new applications, and I never have money in my hand like these 10% that I save. So maybe this is a unique identificator for the public administration, because on the other hand we can't lay off workers like in the private sector. So everything we earn, these maybe 10%, directly goes into new projects respectively, or putting the people or the human resources in a better condition to do other things.
Okay, so question here from Peter asking, how did you build your baseline? And he's suggesting a business process at a time and the associated information, application and technologies.
I hope I get that correctly. By baseline, I would mean that we start out in 2010 or 2011, where we first documented our as-is architecture. So in 2011, there was the first time we knew how many information systems we had, depending concerning our terms from the meta model. At that time on, we are introducing a baseline each year within our yearly planning process. So we are going from an as-is architecture to a target architecture, and next target architecture, and so on, within the step of a year.
Okay, I'm just keeping an eye on the time, but I think we can go through a couple of other questions.
Sure.
To hear from Reza, how does IT architecture cover business needs? How do you cover the gap between IT business in your IT architecture?
Yeah, I'm afraid there is still a gap between the business architecture and the information systems architecture. As I already mentioned, the business architecture is organized within a whole different department. The business architecture is done by the business analysts and the people within the business management. And depending on the sub-organization there, we have got laws or business specifications on different levels of quality, on which we can base our information systems architecture upon. So it's not easy for us because the business architecture documents are so heterogeneous themselves to really plug into the business architecture. What we know in big real-time projects where business processes are really drawn is that we have an alignment within subdomains of our information system architecture. You must imagine that an information system that is 20, 30 years old didn't have the idea of a business process. So we only can make a business IT alignment on special new kind of applications, and I would say that's a quarter maybe of our whole effort. Okay.
Thank you. Work through a couple of others. A question here from Amit. What is the role of business process management in terms of departmental level and enterprise? Is application architecture linked to process architecture?
Mm-hmm. Again, maybe if we show slide 14 with the meta model, processes reside on all three levels. So and with different kinds of abstraction though. So we have the business architecture building business processes or some other kinds of business documentation. Within the information systems architecture, we have so-called IT processes residing above the information systems. So we can, in our model, we can say there is a business process, and parts of the business process is supported by an IT process. And we are starting in the yellow section with the information systems architecture. We are starting with the IT process at exactly that point. So relating to the latter question, we have got some domains where we can say, yes, we have a business process, and yes, parts of that business process is aligned to that business process. So we are covering like 50% of the business. But that's not like I said, like maybe a quarter of our information systems.
Okay, thank you. Question from Peter: are you using your SOA tools just for integration, or developing layered business services by orchestration or composite services?
We've got several. Not but one SOA effort beginning in, I think, 2008, and we are using the IBM WebSphere tools within this SOA effort. And we have not got full aligned business process, IT process automation running into a workflow engine automatically. What we have is we are using the WebSphere tools to draw the IT processes, and I'm not aware of the fact that we're using the process engine. So I think we're just doing that virtually. So we are just drawing the logical processes within the development environment of IBM WebSphere.
I think we've got time just for two more questions. So a question from Joe: how do you evaluate your meta models to ensure that they are consistently achieving the desired goals of the organization and meet dynamic changes in the IT and business strategies?
This resides within our yearly planning process. What we are doing is we are inventorizing our as-is architecture. We are evaluating this as-is architecture. I told you about the Cognos system, the Cognos measure system we implemented, and based on these evaluation results, we are defining a target architecture for the next year. So what we did until now, the Cognos system is quite new, so it's not been productively used. What we did until now, we had our own brain effort to evaluate the as-is architecture, and we did that annually. And beginning with the next year, we are going to really base our annual information upon these Cognos measures. We defined, and just to give you a hint, we defined 4 different topics. Namely, we are measuring the technical capabilities. We are measuring the business capabilities. We're measuring the budget capabilities, so how expensive or not expensive applications are, and I just can't recall the 4th one. And this is done by drilling down into sub measures.
I'm going to answer the last question, and it's going to be a finance question, and this is Bogdan asking: architecture changes often need extra financing. Have a special budget for architecture optimization. How do you finance these optimizations?
Yes, that's correct. You probably will have to address these things that you have to set a span of budget for these architecture management efforts. We have a budgeting item within our great budget addressing the effort the Federal Computing Agency is doing for us in reaching our client goals. So we have an own budget pot, but I think that I can't tell you in numbers, and each project has to address this on its own. So the 3 to 7% of effort I mentioned, the 2% is just budget, the special budget pot I mentioned, and the project efforts you have to add them upon these 2 or 3%.
That's it. Thank you, Johannes. Well, I think I've run over the hour just to make up for the slightly late start. Johannes, have you got any final words you'd like to say to everyone?
Just that I want to apologize again for the technical problem in the beginning, and we are gladly publishing our documents, and I think Arash and you are going to mail them to the audience. So, and if anyone wants to contact me, my contact details are on the last slide, so I'd be glad to also answer emails or phone calls afterwards.
Well, that's fantastic. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Arash. Thank you, Johannes. And at this moment, I will bring today's event to an end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.